Hello and good morning, everyone. So we are here today to discuss about a very interesting topic, which is powering e-governance to meet growing citizen expectations. So with this, I would like to invite our speakers. So I would like to invite Mr. Sri Saurabh Gaur, sir, who is the Joint Secretary at the Ministry of Electronics and IT, Government of India. So Mr. Saurabh Gaur is an electronic engineer from IIT Roorkee and an IS officer of Andhra Pradesh Cadre 2002 batch. Currently, he holds the position of Joint Secretary in Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology and leads the Industrial Promotion, Electronics and Hardware Manufacturing Division, Innovations and Emerging Technologies of Ministry of Electronics and IT. During his career, he has held many key positions in commerce, housing, revenue, energy, and disaster management in central and state government. Mr. Gaur is the key architect of three new schemes of Government of India, namely Production Linked Incentive Scheme, Scheme for Promotion of Manufacturing of Electronics Components and Semiconductors, and Modified Electronics Manufacturing Cluster schemes. The schemes were designed to boost the domestic manufacturing and attracting large-scale investment to the ESDS sector. In a short span, he had been instrumental in promoting electronics manufacturing in India. Welcome, Saurabh, sir.
Thank you
Next,
so much.
I would like to invite Mr. Angiah Santhanaswamy, who is the Director, Public Sector Business Development with Oracle India Private Limited. Welcome, Angiah.
Thank you.
And lastly, I'd like to introduce our moderator, Dr. Rajeshree Dutta Kumar, who has been spearheading this program since almost more than a decade now. We have worked together for almost 12 years now, and thank you, Dr. Rajeshree Dutta. She is right now working with Punjabi Chamber of Commerce as an executive director, and actually we can say that she's a it's like subject matter expert, if I can say. She is actually, because I've seen her work and her research around all this sector. So welcome, Dr. Rajeshree. I'll not take much time from yours, and I'll hand over this interesting fireside chat to you. Over to you, Dr. Rajeshree. Thank you.
Thank you, Fahim, for this warm introduction. And I welcome our very distinguished panelists, Sri Saurabh Gaur and Mr. Angiah Santhanaswamy. Sorry, sir, Santhanaswamy. Yes. So welcome. I welcome both of you. And it is indeed an honor for me to speak to you and have a good conversation with, because we have a leader from the government side and we have a leader from the private sector side. So public sector and private sector together, and we would have some interesting conversation around it. I hope we all are audible to each other. I'm audible to both of you.
Yes, absolutely.
So the topic is very interesting. It talks about the digital transformation and the expectations that the citizens have. Because in the past 2 years and in the past decade also, we have seen that the e-governance took a beautiful shape of, shape of digital transformation. People have transformed their lives. Enterprises have transformed their processes, the customer experience, the user experience, and as citizens, we have become more informed and aware of how a particular transformation process should behave and how do we respond to it. So we have a certain set of expectations. And with this, I would love to have Saurabh sir's input on how do we reimagine it, because digital transformation has been talked about, e-governance has been talked about, and when we talk about digital transformation, we believe that there is a sense of there's a huge work of digital governance already happening in the in the background, or it's been happening, and then we try to build the digital transformation. So when we talk about reimagining, what all are you doing and what is happening, what are the initiatives that have been floated under your leadership? Would love to hear from you, Saurabh.
Thank you, Dr. Dutta Kumar. It is indeed a pleasure being in this conference today. India is a nation of almost a billion digitally connected people. And if you look at almost 700 million plus internet users, 1.1 billion mobile subscribers, and our data rates being what they are, I believe that we have, I'm so sorry, can you? So where would you like me to take it from? From the question or I can straight away start answering. You're on mute, ma'am.
So, sir, from the question, then they will
Okay.
be able to, because I've already put the question across, you will respond. Yes. Over to you, Saurabh. Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Dutta, for making me a part of this wonderful event. India is a nation of almost a billion digitally connected people, and with more than 700 million internet subscribers, almost a billion plus mobile subscribers, and with among the cheapest data rates in the world, I think uh, we've been able to bring a digital revolution in the country. The government is very focused, and with the launch of Digital India program in 2015, under the visionary leadership of Honorable Prime Minister, lots of uh, things have already happened in the sense that if you look at today, the rural internet users are more than the urban users. The proliferation of digital platforms that has happened is phenomenal. We have among the biggest digital payment systems in the entire world in terms of UPI. The number of e-governance initiatives is also phenomenal. But while all of it is a cause of uh, great pride, we cannot sit on our laurels. We are looking at a Digital India 2.0 program where we put again citizen in the center. And imagine a Digital India 2.0 with a digital Nagarik at the center of this. And enable a digital Nagarik, a person with the digital identity. We already have Aadhaar as our unique digital identifier, but Aadhaar or a derivative of Aadhaar, identifying a person in different digital platforms, and how do you enable digital governance around it? How do you make that person a part of the digital economy that is prospering? How do you move from populate the ecosystem to have more digital platforms and overall digital enterprise architecture? I think these are the 3-4 key elements as part of Digital India 2.0 that you will see taking shape. Some of them have already taken shape. We are looking at moving up the ladder from individual systems, solutions and systems to an ecosystem approach. And another key aspect of this is digital security. So if I were to broadly sum it up, the 4 pillars that we look at are uh, number 1 is digital Nagarik or digital citizen at the center of all of it, digital economy as one part of it, digital security as the other part of it, and digital connectivity as the third part of it, and all of them coming together to make Digital India 2.0 program.
Thank you so much for such I mean, we have wonderfully put and summarized the components, the broader components. And I know India is a country which has largest population, and each of our geographies has unique, what do you call that, unique advantages and disadvantages. And we are absolutely diverse, and we are still together when it comes to talking about India as a country. Now, you have talked about the digital Nagrik and digital economy, digital security, and digital connectivity. 4 pillars, 4 components, seminal ones. Put together, the digital transformation gets a meaning, a new meaning, which is digital 2.0 that the government is talking about. Now, I'll request Angiah, how do you see from a private sector's perspective and from your organization's perspective, if I may have to
Sure.
put it, how are you going to support and contribute to this?
Sure. So like what Saurabh sir has actually mentioned about these 4 pillars, there's one more pillar, which is the customer expectation keeps rising. Okay. And like I was just telling you about how in those days, a decade ago, we used to wait for a couple of months to get a passport. Today, the same citizen feels he's got all the right to receive a passport in less than 24 hours. And we have done it. We have delivered it. So what Dr. Saurabh sir is saying, and what we also believe in is, these things will only keep augmenting because the citizen feels, okay, he's empowered, he's got it, what's next? Okay, so that is continuing to change the whole demography out here within India. So I just spoke about the explosion of internet connectivity, the mobile phones. Look at me, in a remote part of the country, live, I'm sitting and talking to you people. using the hotspot, right? So what does it mean? It means that yes, we have empowered the citizen. Similarly, when it comes to economy, how could you do that when the government of India is talking about $5 trillion? It's digital economy is going to help that. Mighty themselves are talking about $1 billion through the digital initiatives. Besides that, trust and security goes hand in hand. And obviously, the fourth one is the connectivity. We know that Mighty under Saurabh sirs and other folks within Mighty, the country is going and connecting every village in the nation, right? So that's what empowering is. Now, what did we do from our recent reforms? Like I just told you about the Passport Seva Kendra, India is unique. It's not 100% digital. It can also mean a hybrid. So we have a healthy mix of a hybrid situation where we have people empowering the digital people who may not be skilled to say, okay, don't worry. You know how the Jandan works. We can take in your application. So they will allow the citizen through these passport survey Kendra or the citizen centers across the country and say, we will enable the last mile. And the pillars which Sir spoke about, right? Be it the Aadhaar, be it the GSTN, be it all the foundation that the India stack, the APIs, the e-sign, the DigiLocker, everything comes in a clear orchestration in the background, and the citizen does not have to worry about it. He just has the wish list. He gets his work done either through an intermediary or by himself. So we are fortunate to be in India for the last 30 odd years, and be it Aadhaar, be it GST, be it income tax, e-filing, be it customs, or even the Prime Minister's pet project, the aspirational districts, right? So we have, look at the way we define things. We don't longer call the districts as backward. We call them aspirational. So of these 112 aspirational districts, what did we do? How can you take those 10 themes? How can you have a commonality? How can you have these 1,000 data points and rank them, right? The top 5. And we don't say bottom 5. We'll say, okay, what is the areas of improvement? Where else can you develop? So this is what the private and the government entity merge hands on to say, okay, how can I get this digital Nagrik in the center of scheme, be it at the district, be it in urban, be it pan-India. So that's how we, along with Mighty and Government of India, have been, driving this agenda on digital initiatives. And I love the way that we are talking about digital 2.0 now. Don't be surprised. Soon people ask, where is 3.0? Where is 4.0? And we'd love to be in that challenge.
Wonderful, wonderful. Uh, if I may have to say something here, I think the digital 2.0 and 3.0, we will not even come to know when we have actually crossed that, because there is no fine line. And then we will have to then drag the people who are in digital 2.0 to digital 3.0, as you have very rightly mentioned, Angiah, that this is the beautiful, it's a hybrid model. So people who do not have access and people who have. So people who have, they are trying to empower the people who do not have. And as Saurabh sir has very rightly mentioned, that the rural user, we have more rural user when it comes to internet or smart mobile, and they are the ones who are actually using effectively all the apps that are available there. Now, my next question is again, since we are still going through that pandemic time, it's a hybrid again. It's a situation where we are opening up, we are not. So I would also like to know the oxygen digital tracking system that was developed under the aegis, under the leadership of METI. And because at Punjabi Chamber of Commerce, we also contributed we raised funds and we contributed in different pins, small villages of government hospitals and across Punjab. We tried to do our bit, and then we realized that no, the oxygen plant is something that we should have invested our energies on, the funds on, and we are doing that. We are committed to do that. Now, coming to that oxygen tracking system, this will be a very what do you call that? A very innovative situation. And how is METI responding to it? Can you share something on that, Saurabh sir?
So, let me talk to you about oxygen digital tracking system is only one part of, for example, a
Yes.
digital response to a
Yes.
pandemic, which threw challenges to all of us. And
Right.
while it has accelerated digital transformation without any doubt, and you see the kind of transformation that is happening in edutech, health tech, so on and so forth. But for example, oxygen became a big challenge during second wave of pandemic. And for government to be able to respond in an effective and efficient manner to such a humongous challenge, um, this was possible apart from whatever else was happening on the field, and lots of code warriors and civil society officials, volunteers, everybody coming together and trying to do what they could. You mentioned about your own experience. But in terms of how do you respond to certain things and bring efficiencies because of digital platforms being available. So whether it was Arogya Setu as a contract tracing app and an app facilitating movement in first wave of the pandemic, or things like oxygen digital tracking system and oxygen digital aggregation system, which gives a real-time handle on what is the bed availability in different hospitals, what is the requirement of oxygen in the hospitals depending on the ICU patients and the non-ICU patients, and the flow rates of oxygen that is required, and to be able to then do an aggregation at the district level, at the state level, have war rooms established to be able to respond to that. And then the humongous challenge of transporting almost 10,000 metric tons per day of oxygen. It was 3,000 metric tons on 20th of March. Also, the capacity that India had was that much. To be able to scale up that capacity, what happened in the field is phenomenal. But to be able to manage the logistics and to say that, look, the demand is coming up from here, depending on how COVID situation is evolving, and be able to track and respond to that demand and to be able to provide to states. So I believe it was a great example of center-state collaboration in our federal system. And today we have come to that kind of, in fact, during the COVID wave itself, within 48 hours, Ministry of Electronics and IT and DPIT, Department for Promotion of Industry and Internal Trade, along with Ministry of Road Transport, were able to come together and develop a logistics platform. And that happened because you had registry of all the drivers who are trained, or registry of drivers who are having licenses for carrying hazardous goods such as oxygen tanker, oxygen. You had the database of oxygen tankers and also nitrogen and argon tankers, and you knew where to find them, and it brought efficiency in their conversion. So there was, and then there was this the database of GSTN which was utilized. Similarly, FASTag was utilized to be able to track. DOT offered its services to be able to track through SIM also. So the tracking of vehicles was happening through FASTag, through GPS, through SIM-based connectivity. There were at least 10 data sets that were integrated to put together a logistics platform, which is today able to deliver. If what it delivered for oxygen, it can deliver for food grains, it can deliver for different logistic systems that are there. And recently we had inauguration of, or the launch of Gati Shakti program, which is essentially aimed at bringing efficiencies, providing visibility in terms of infrastructure planning and logistics network. Angiah ji was also there, and
Yes.
we had the opportunity to interact there. So what I'm saying is that ODTS became what it was, or oxygen digital aggregation system became what it was because of the painstaking work in digital space that has happened. And today we are looking at that becoming a bigger platform for logistics. Similarly, look at today we have crossed 100 crore vaccinations, and the fact that the entire nation is celebrating. Honorable Prime Minister has led it from the front. The fact that COVID has developed as a vaccination tracking system, and it is a digital public good, or a system that we are able to offer to other nations also, and say that, look, we can provide you something which is very efficient, which can serve a billion Indians, so it can definitely serve everywhere else also. So I think what digital systems are able to do is mind-boggling. We can talk about use cases one after the other. During COVID, we talked about these use cases. In fact, the National Digital Health Mission, um, or the Ayushman Bharat Digital Mission getting fast-paced and being launched is also to a great extent because of the some deficiencies that were felt during COVID era, and the fact that digital efficiencies have to be brought so that the health system can prepare itself for any such further eventualities.
Actually, and we really feel so good about it. I mean, India, during, in fact, I saw in the news in the morning itself that we have actually vaccinated so many. I mean, it's a huge number. India is all about scale and impact. And believe me, when we receive those SMSs from the Arogya Setu, or wherever we receive a text that your vaccination is due, your second shot is due, we feel so empowered as a citizen. We feel so, I mean, that is the expectation that Angiah was talking about. So Angiah ji, can you just talk something a little more about this Gati Shakti, and what was your role during the COVID time? I mean, how did you collaboratively work, support the
Sure,
ministry?
sure, sure, sure. So what we did was, like what Saurabh sir also handles startups, right? So MIT also has a whole plethora of startups that they groom and generate. So we work with a couple of startups, and such startup is in Hyderabad. And what we did is from 2017, 2018, we created this logistics platform, not only for Oxygen Digital, but that we also had did it in hindsight. When you're talking about economics, one of the pillars which Saurabh sir spoke about is also economics, right, for digital economy. So when it comes to exim, right, be it export or import, you wouldn't believe it. Like COVID gave us, I mean, this pandemic gave us an opportunity to do it with paper. So there were about 36 documents which needed to be completely done physically. So what the government of India also did, thanks to MIT, thanks to Ministry of Commerce Logistics Division, is that we did a prototype. And you'll be surprised to know, Dr. Rajeshree, is that stakeholders like banking and finance, be it customs, be it GSTN, be it MIT's own CDAC signatures, or the Aadhaar, okay? And then we brought in the Oracle open source Hyperledger Fabric blockchain. And then we are also, I'm very, very happy to announce that both our data centers, be it Mumbai and be it at Hyderabad, are MIT certified, right? So we understood there are two things which brings all this adoption of technology. One is trust, the other is security. So what we did is we gave a lot of support to our partner. The partner's name is Cargo Exchange based in Hyderabad. And such nimble people, dynamic people. And immediately within 24 hours, 48 hours, we had this vision and said, okay, can we thrash it across, help the country in times of distress? And it happened. So from an Oracle standpoint, what did we do? We gave them the technology to quickly do things on the Oracle platform, which is open standards and open source. And in fact, we power most of the banking, be it GST and other income tax, customs, FOIS. So the beauty in Government of India is most of these participating government agencies now collaborate. So when they collaborate together, so if some oxygen has to move from A to B, or a document needs to traverse from one point to another point, it cuts across several departments, ministries, okay? Historically, they used to work in silos. Now, there's a perfect synergy because it's all on APIs, it works on data interoperability, it works on data portability, and allows everyone to have an equal play in a smooth, end-to-end operation. So the Oracle play was purely to enable open APIs, purely to open standards, purely on the trust and security aspect that we did with the cloud infrastructure board at Mumbai and Hyderabad. And we worked, our teams work along with the partner. So more often you would not see Oracle in the face, you'll only see the startup in the face because that's what we do. So yes, we've been powering the logistics thing, and happy to know that there's one more project we are working with Amnex in Ahmedabad for LPP. This is the logistics planning and performance tool, which sort of mirrors what the Gati Shakti also does with 200 layers of GIS mapping and inter-ministerial cooperation. That is the need as the art. So Oracle is enabling all these PGAs, the participating government entities. Since we already have footprints in most of them since the last decade, it's easier for us to stitch them together and give the value proposition to all the stakeholders.
Wonderful, wonderful to know. And this is what you have been doing. And this is what the core crux of digital transformation is, like empowering everyone, the processes, the people, and the what do you call it, the users. And that's how we are working together, all of us. Now, Saurabh sir, I have a question which is like very close to my heart, because you you lead the entire emerging technologies initiatives that are happening around that, and AI for all. Where are we today? Because we've been talking about it, and there's so much that has happened, and this COVID, the entire discussion that we have had before, just before I'm speaking, it was basically, I think AI also has had a bigger role to play. So where are we today? Not only from the COVID perspective, but across.
Yeah, no, thank you for raising this up. You talked about India is all about scale, and Angiah talked about collaborations that are happening. So I think in AI, with data is the prime piece and the fodder, I think data is India's strength. The fact that today we are generating, I don't know, almost 150 exabytes of data per year, and India's share of global data flows is around 20%. There has been almost 80 times growth in data flows in last 6 years in the country. And the fact that India's data size is the most diverse probably globally, and so it holds that massive value. So all of this is going to contribute to this being India's decade, the decade of technology for India. And I believe AI is going to be a horizontal that will cut across different verticals and bring newer efficiencies into all of them. Today, we have, well, we had the strategy paper on AI, and we also have launched from the ministries, from the government side, with Department of Science and Technology, the National Mission on Integrated Cyber Physical Systems, or NMICPS as it is called. So under NMICPS, essentially 25 technology incubation centers have been established. So these 25, I'm sorry, 25 TIH, or the technology incubation heads, that have been put in different centers of excellence. For example, in IIT Kharagpur will have on IoT, IIC Bangalore probably on data science, AI/ML, and so on and so forth. So all renowned centers of national importance are dealing with one part of technology or other as a foundation technology, and they are looking at core and foundational research into that, also applied research, and linking it to the technology business incubation units, which have been set up in those respective institutes. Almost $500 million has been committed, almost 3,500 crores has been committed to this program. A great deal of autonomy is also provided to institutions to drive the research, to engage with startups, and to provide them with the data, models, algorithms, as well as compute infrastructure, which again is facilitated through the National Supercomputing Mission, which is jointly run by Ministry of Electronics and IT as well as Department of Science and Technology. So these are things that are already happening in terms of providing, working on the research part, on the application part also, and linking to startups. But there is a much bigger play that is emerging. And that is where I took the example of National Digital Health Mission. Or before that, let us say, take the example of the UPI as the financial business and financial sector mission. Or what UPI has enabled is that anchored under National Payment Corporation of India, it has been able to provide streamlined access to data sets of account holders that are with different accounts that people have in different banks, data sets of credit data sets. So, and then these standardized data sets have been connected through a standardized API in form of a unified payment interface. And then a marketplace has come on top of that. So it has enabled retail services as well as other business services. So today a Paytm or a Google Pay or a Amazon Pay or whatever, all these, or Phone Pay, these kind of things are able to develop because the foundational piece, the digital public digital infrastructure is in place. Minus that infrastructure, or a Paytm or a Phone Pay, to be able to negotiate and integrate with each of the banks would have been almost an impossible task. And today they are able to become the unicorns, or the, I do not know if there is another word, but multi-unicorns that they are. We will see, so with this digital platform being in place, for example, for BFSI, the business and finance sector, today there is NDHM will emerge, or the National Digital Health Mission, or the Ayushman Bharat Digital Health Mission will emerge as the mission in health sector, where again the public digital infrastructure is getting streamlined in terms of the repository of doctors, practitioners, the diagnostic service providers, the drugs providers, similarly the insurance service providers. So all of these get standardized, and then you have unified interfaces, digital interface, unified health interface (UHI) being put in place, and all of it in an open architecture and a federated architecture, so that states can also have their play. And then you have a sandbox and a marketplace. Sandbox for companies and startups to be able to test their solutions. For example, Angiah, you talked about in logistics sector, over a period of time, the platform that has been built. Why? For example, Android is a platform today, or Google Play Store is a platform, and it enables play of so many things. Similarly, a digital health mission becomes a, a, a data exchange, a data infrastructure, as well as a marketplace coming together as a platform, which will enable. I will not be surprised if we see lots of unicorns emerging in health sector in another 2-3 years. Similarly, we are looking at 12 sectors in which the this kind of digital public infrastructure is put in place, data sets are standardized, and open AI access is provided. Be it uh, agriculture along with animal husbandry, fisheries, everything together. Education, where NDR is coming up as a platform. Logistics, where ULIP is coming out as a platform. In even law and justice, there is a platform which is coming up. So I think the future is very exciting, and that is where government, what it can do best, and that is what we are doing, trying to do, is provide safe, secure, standardized access to data sets, the ones that government holds, and also from data evangelists, and then allow the startups and the companies to have their play. They are best at rolling out use cases, leveraging AI, leveraging all other foundational technologies, and be able to come out with use cases. All of it put together, we see almost $500 billion of um, addition, or value addition, gross value addition, coming because of AI alone in next 5 years. That's what NASSCOM, the industry body, has been telling us. By 2035, it might be almost 2 trillion US dollars. The digital economy is poised to become 1 trillion US dollars by 2026. So, but all of these are not empty numbers. We've been able to, in a way, gauge and come to a empirical understanding of which sectors, what kind of unlocking of digital economy can happen through AI. And that is where, while government will essentially be an enabler and putting training its data officers, putting the digital systems and platforms in place, I believe the private ecosystem is just going to explode and provide lots and lots of solutions which digital Nagari is going to benefit from.
I'm sure. And yeah, I'm sure because you have actually spoken about many things here. I hope I have been able to absorb for my personal understanding and personal, what do you call that, capacity building. But I think, Angiah, can you just quickly throw some light on this AI part of it? And I would also like you to talk a little bit about the cloud adoption, because Saurabh ji has talked about safe and secure data, and so there is a need for us to also talk a little bit about the cloud adoption that is required at the government level, because there are things are happening in piecemeal, in silos. Some states are doing in something or other, but then we have to have a policy, the cloud policy. So can you just throw some light on this before I go over to Saurabh ji on that? Yeah, Angiah.
Sure. I'll just take just a second on what Saurabh sir just spoke
Yeah.
about on the AI part. And even here, we are also working very closely with MITI. And the advantage is we are from the private industry. We also help, how do we cultivate this data set, the humongous data set that we have, and also, bring in the source organic data pipeline. So along with MITI, we are also, providing the sandbox environment along with industry's leading MSET2 algorithm. We already have about 150 patents, and we are trying to provide the open platforms. From a global perspective, getting the best requirements for what suits India, and also the open source is the reasonable codes that we bring in. So this is very exciting times from an AI perspective, right? So we are very quietly, very nicely entrenched there to help move the curve. Now, coming to the cloud question that you talk about, currently we are also working along with Mighty, another group called the Cloud Adoption. Okay, so where that's happening is we're trying to inculcate the habit of trust and security. So we have another entity called DIC, Digital India Corporation, also, along with hypervisor cloud service providers like us, trying to build pilots, POCs to customers in the government sector and give them the confidence to say, yes, we can enable a transformational, shift from on-premise to cloud. So that is happening, but it's slightly slower. But I think the moment Mighty provides more guidelines and becomes the cusp between the customer, the department, and the industry, and tells, okay, we are there for you from a security and the trust perspective. I'm sure all the cloud service providers together, like Oracle, can work together from a common, objective to take it to the next level. That's what I believe.
On this, Saurabh sir, your take on this?
I think Angiah has raised some very valid points. I believe the movement to cloud and cloud storage is going to be hugely accelerated. Just to give you some numbers, our data center capacity today is almost 250 megawatt, which is only 0.2 watt per capita. If you compare it with, say, Singapore, it is 70 watt per capita. Even Hong Kong has around 40 watt per capita. USA has 17 watt per capita. So we are almost, in the sense, an order of magnitude of 10 times behind. What it also means is that our data center capacity in next 5 years is going to become almost 2 gigawatt. So there is a 10x growth that is going to happen in data centers in the country. And there's huge demand, and this is fueled by the drivers being, apart from Digital India program, the fact that there's a growth of internet population, use of smart devices, Industry 4.0, big data and IoT getting deployed everywhere. Similarly, some kind of regulatory impact also in terms of data localization, at least for payment related data. So all these things are drivers for growth of data and cloud space and migration to cloud-based businesses in the country. And we would see more and more acceleration in that. MeitY is determined to support the data centers, data ecosystem, and also not just the brick and mortar that goes into the data centers, but also having some kind of play or understanding with the industry, a gentle nudge to have servers that power the data centers and the memory that powers the data centers to be localized, to be domesticated, even that manufacturing piece also to be strengthened because of proliferation of data centers. So I think that is the next big goal for the ministry also, that how do you accelerate and rise up to the demand is outpacing the supply, and how do you rise up to ensure that the data centers also become a central piece to Digital India.
Yes, thank you so much. Because, we are talking about digital transformation. We are a number, huge number, and that's where we need to have our own secure policy. And Angiah has very rightly mentioned that they are just trying to create that trust and confidence in the stakeholders from the government and from the center, from the government, and also together we have to do a robust policy set. We have to set up policy guidelines for us to work forward. And as you have very rightly mentioned that we the 0.2 date, I think you mentioned some units, Saurabh sir. That is how, I mean, we are really far behind as compared to Singapore or any other country for that reason. And that is where we have to work together to go to. And so my last question to both the gentlemen, your leadership remarks for digital transformation as we move to the other sessions. Yeah.
I will let Saurabh start.
Yes.
Okay, thank you so much. So government has given me the responsibility to deliver on the programs that I handle, and We are determined under the leadership of Honorable Ministers and the vision of Honorable Prime Minister that Digital India 2.0 takes a shape that it just seamlessly, like we started with merging into 3.0, 4.0, but uh, the fact that our digital identity is going to be as important as our physical identity, and how do you ensure that ease of doing business and ease of living translates into or has serious sense overlap with Digital India program. That is the mission with us, and we look forward to delivering it for the country.
No, Angiah, what is your take on
Yeah,
this?
so my take is to actually support Mighty and what Saurabh sir just spoke about, to say from an industry perspective, how can Oracle, stand hand in hand and support them, right? So what we have done is a couple of things. I'll just name the top three. One is the government clearly wanted all the data to be within the country, so we also have, technology which allows that even beyond the data center, I can keep, let's say, a box within a firewall called the Exadata to allow, very secure, correspondence or data sovereignty within a premise. That's one. Two, as lots of services are being offered, we also thought, how do we enable the government with a lot of trust? When I speak about trust and security, we wanted to build in SLAs, right? SLA level services for both availability, manageability, and performance, right? So once we give all these three critical elements from an Oracle Cloud infrastructure, then even it's easier for Mighty to convince other departments to move towards the cloud adoption, because we also like to provide them back-to-back SLAs. Today, the citizen or the other departments don't care much if you don't give them proper service. Right? So, with the moment you say, yes, I will give you defined SLAs for few parameters, that's awesome. Next is the Honorable Prime Minister also spoke about touching $400 billion in 21-22 from an export number. Please look at the kind of documentation and paperwork which needs to be done. We, with the Secure Logistics Document Exchange, along with a startup partner, along with Mighty, along with MOC, you'll be surprised to know we started with 6 steps, ended up with 21 steps by taking all the stakeholders, all the PGS, all the banks. Today we have ICICI Bank, Axis Bank, SBI Bank saying, can we go live tomorrow? I mean, that's how the whole thing, amplifies. So yes, I'm so happy to say that e-governance has picked up, 2.0 is ramped up, and we're just looking at down the curve to say what's next. So we are in that race to provide these elements of trust, security, and overall citizen satisfaction.
Wonderful, the leadership remarks as we move to the other sessions. But I think what I, as a citizen, my expectation as a citizen, I think the digital identity is as important as similar as our physical identity. That is one thing. And when we are talking about digital identity, we have to also see that the data, me as a data, I need to have a very secure, and my ecosystem has to be secure, safe, and I feel secure and safe in the digital world as well. And also the digital sovereignty is very important because we are a very strong nation. And hats off to all our leaders from the government and from the corporate. You have actually proven it during the COVID times. We were secured, we were delivered what was needed, and and we are going stronger. This is a country where we celebrate all our festivals because the platform is there, the digital transformation platform is there, and people out there know how to do it, and that's the infrastructure that are being provided to us. So thank you so much for this wonderful session. I really enjoyed speaking to both of you, and thank you for joining us. And over to you, Fahim. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think so with with a speaker like Saurabh Angiah and you moderating it, it could have gone to, I don't know, it's like hour to hour. We would have loved to listen it, but time is always a constant on the conclaves part. So with this, I would like to thank Saurabh Gaur sir, Angiah, and Dr. Rajeshree Dutta. And it was an amazing session, and we look forward to your presence in our future conclaves too. Thank you. Thank you very much, sir.
Sure. Thank you.
Thank you
Thank you,
so much,
Saurabh.
Karimji. Thank you, Angiah ji and Dr.
Thank you.
Rajeshree.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.